All right, hey everyone, welcome to the episode of That's All Funny. My guest today, I don't know if you would like to introduce yourself, Tony. Is
That's
that
pretty
right?
much it. I'm Tony.
Okay, cool. No, thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
I,
Now want to talk to you a little bit about different topics. What food, games, comics, stuff like that.
awesome. Some of my favorite things are food, games, and comics.
Awesome, though. So now I wanted to ask. I know we had here on the topic of, let's say, video games, right? For instance, I'm not sure if you're as seasoned as I am in the age range of video games, but I wanted to ask, as far as like, if you how many games you've played, how long you've been playing, when did games feel really like cinematic to you and not just like, oh, another shooter or another like platformer. It was like a story that really hit you, or graphics that really made you say, "Wow, like this is more than just a video game."
I don't know. I think for me, it's been either a story or the graphics, right?
Hmm.
Because the best story that I've done recently has been West of Loathing, which is notoriously poor graphics, like on purpose poor graphics. But I don't know, the plot is just so funny that I can't help but love it. And I don't even know that plot is the right word because it's not like some of these games where it's a notoriously convoluted novelization crammed into a game, but it's more like a lot of puns and alternate paths that are not necessarily obvious. Like in something like the original Baldur's Gate, you had options that would lead you down very clear paths that you could tell from the beginning, because of things like alignment. But in Loathing, it's more like it, the goblins speak goblin and you can't speak goblin unless you don't kill them. And then, like, several hours into the game, you learn how to speak Goblin. And then, like, a whole other side situation opens up that you might not have known was an option unless, like, circumstances conspired in the right direction to make that happen.
Okay, no, do you? And this is going off of me. I don't know. Have you ever like cried in a video game? Like, has it ever gotten that emotion from you? Because I know the first video game I ever cried in that actually like hit me as a mixture of story and cinematic was probably the BioShock for the Xbox 360, where it gave you these sort of, oh, are you gonna pick the good path or the bad path? And I ended up picking the good path, and the story just like, I don't know, moved me that much to where I actually did like shed tears. I don't know, I'm not ashamed to say it.
Yeah, I'm not a crier, so I can't say that that has been my experience. I have unfortunately played games that I think were attempting that sort of thing. Like is it Over the Moon? Something.
I don't recall. Uh-huh.
It's definitely something with the involving the moon. Give me a second.
Oh, no worries. And then in my most recent um games in my head that have elicited like emotion from me, I would say Omori uh was pretty, the story there was like, wow, this is it was really terrible and tragic in all the right ways. To where I was like, wow, this feels like, I don't know, it wasn't, it was a great story, but it wasn't like a happy story. I'll say that, you know.
See, I have to say I go out of my way to avoid like making my entertainment further my depression, you know? Like I don't want to be sad. I think
Hmm.
it's called To the Moon. And
Okay.
it's really it's try I'm sorry. This game is a try too hard. It really is. A story driven experience about two doctors traversing backwards through a dying man's memories to artificially fulfill his last wish. Right? So the whole point is like you're one of these two doctors, and they're like, their whole thing is they use your memories to create sort of like a artificial memory that's
Yeah.
sort of wish fulfillment as the person is dying. And I'm like, all of this is both too much and real boring, right? Like I'll admit I'm not like I used to be an RPG person and occasionally like an MMORPG person, but now as my life has gotten more like an adult, I now have to minimize what I play. So I mostly play like crafting games or time management games.
Hmm.
But this, I don't know, somebody recommended this game at work, and that doesn't always turn out badly. So I tried it, and I'm just like, no, no, this game is trash. And it's won like all of these awards, and I guess it's wrong of me to say it's trash because it's very clearly like, but it gives the feel of when like art is considered art because it's pretentious.
Yeah, it's pandering to an audience, and everyone feels like they need to. Oh, it needs to win the award because it's like you said, it's trying too hard or it's try hard. You know.
But like this is the kind of game that's won all the awards and is considered, like great, but I doubt anybody has actually enjoyed playing it because it is not enjoyable. Right? It
Yeah.
is it is purposely designed to be maudlin and miserable and not at all enjoyable. Now, it's not like that God, what was that Legend of Zelda game that came out? Not the most recent one, but the one before it for the Switch.
Breath of the Wild.
Yes, where everything breaks.
Uh huh.
Like you're trying to quest, but every 10 seconds you have to find a new weapon cuz all your weapons just keep breaking.
Uh huh.
I'm like, that's unenjoyable in a totally different way, right? That's not enjoyable because of the frustration surrounding the fact that you don't even have an opportunity to upgrade your weapons so that you can play uninterrupted by the constant need to get new weapons. And
No.
you don't even have like the option to craft these new weapons or repair the old weapons. It's all about like killing something and getting a weapon from it before your current weapon dies.
No, I'd never played. I don't know. I was just after A Link to the Past, and I'm showing my age there with the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo. I never cared to play any other Zelda game as even as much as accolades or gameplay wise. I've heard that they're good or bad. You know.
Zelda was probably the first game I ever played back when I didn't even have my own Nintendo and had to like beg Nintendo time off the neighbors' kids. So I will always have a special place for Zelda, and I'm generally a PC or tablet gamer rather than a console gamer. But when I got a Switch and I found out that they had Zeldas, I was all over it.
Oh no, hell yeah, no. Um, in another on topic here, we got comics. do you believe comics are being made now? Like, and maybe you know more so than me, because I'm not really into comics, but uh, if they're being made more so now to kind of pilot them and workshop them in hopes of them being adapted into TV or animated series or films, or do people still care about the that sort of storytelling that could only be done by comics? You know.
I think comics suffer from the same problem it's often suffered from, which is that there are too many people involved, right? Like, in order for you to have a good story arc in comics, you need to have one person making decisions. And I think we haven't really see. I'm a huge X-Men fan, and the big name in X-Men is always going to be Chris Claremont because he made them, right? Like, he didn't create them. He certainly didn't create the original five, but he wrote them for like an obscenely long period of time for a comic book writer to write any comic book. So he really defined a lot of their characters for a lot of people. And I love this new trend of people who are fans of comics writing comics, which is great. And I love all the new characters and all the new stories being told in comics. But I'm still really angry about the death of Krakoa because I really just want them to be happy.
Hmm.
And I don't think that the people who write comics understand that the people who read comics would be okay with that, right? Like, we did not have to destroy that. There were areas you could have explored, in the building of a new society, and they were working on a new religion, and they were doing international politics, and they were in space, and and I don't think that they had to sort of blow that up in the way that they did so that we could go back to the way things have always been. That I was talking to somebody the other day about Batman and how, like, Batman keeps restarting because Batman is a guy who, even with all his gadgets and money, can only Batman for like 20 years before he's going to get too old to Batman, right?
Hmm.
So they inevitably have to go back and start over if you want to keep original Bruce Wayne Batman being Batman and not like hand it off to somebody else. And so, in a way, that story does have to keep being retold over and over again. But I don't think that that's true of every character, right? Certainly not true of X-Men, certainly not true of, the comic characters like Superman or Wonder Woman who are functionally immortal, or even comic book characters like Green Lantern, who are a title, not a guy, right? Green Lantern and Flash have been multiple guys, and a lot of people who are casually into comics don't know that, right? So there's untold things you could do with those titles that don't involve like the character living forever, right?
Yeah.
So I think I get what you're saying about like wanting to expand the audience, you know, but I don't necessarily think that that's how it works, right? I think the comics have to come first because the comics are where all the people who who pay attention to the details go, right? And then the movies and the shows are all just made up from there, right? It's like nobody makes the movie first and then writes the book, right? The book
Yeah.
comes first, and then somebody will pick up the book and go, I could turn this into a movie, or there's already enough of a fan base for this to be a movie, right?
Hmm.
And and while I think I understand the complaints of some people when it comes to like the sort of dumbing down of the storyline for the movie or the television show or the cartoon. I I don't think there's anything wrong with that because anything that draws people to the wiki is fine with me, right? It's like anything that gets somebody interested is fine with me.
And that's a rarity, I feel, because a lot of people will feel like, oh, real. I don't know if the word's territorial, but I feel like, no, I had found this first, and now everyone wants to be a fan of it. Uh, that's not right. What is it, like gatekeeping when they sort of want to do that?
There definitely is some people who are gatekeepy about it. And because there definitely is I get the annoyance where it's like, no, I understand this situation or this character and you've just sort of like had a babified version spoon fed to you. Don't be trying to explain it to me, you know?
Hmm.
But the truth is there's so much in comic books that even most of the writers who write comic books don't know all of it, right? That's why you see people, having to create no prize explanations for canonical inconsistencies, right? And just because what you like about a character is true doesn't mean there isn't something else completely different that somebody else likes about that character that can't also be, true.
Hmm.
Plus, I think there's a bit of a push and a pull, right? You know, Batman was made in the 30s, X Men was made in the 60s. You've got grown ass adults and senior citizens who grew up with comic books, right? Inspiring their kids who are inspiring their kids to, to read these comic books. So I think on a level, on a personal level, people want to share them with people, but I think people get upset when something that feels very personal to them is interpreted in a way that feels very contradictory to the reason why it's personal to them.
Hmm. No, absolutely. And I don't know. I just feel like, yeah, no, people are just weird nowadays with wanting to like something or hate something. They're just very people are very passionate, I'll say that, about things nowadays. We just say that for sure. And as far as like, I would move on topic like of food. I don't know if you do cook or just eat out at chain restaurants or eat locally. I know now it's cheaper to like order out now than it is, to kind of cook. Do you have any go-to recipes for cooking, or do you know of anything like out there that's like a diamond in the rough food item that's like in a chain restaurant, right? Your local restaurant. I know for me, the white chocolate macadamia nut cookie from Subway is like the greatest cookie ever, and it's just from Subway. You know what I mean?
I feel you because I'm a huge oatmeal raisin cookie from Subway person. And
Hmm.
normally I'm not like a cookie person, but they must make that shit with lard or something because it is amazing. It's all, no matter how long it's been in there, it's always soft.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I don't cook very often because when I cook, I want to do it from like scratch, and then it takes all day, And I'm like, now I'm not even hungry. This has been a lot of work. I had to go to like 15 stores. But when I have to cook for like a fancy situation, I usually make chicken marsala. Um,
Okay.
that's usually my go-to, and it does it takes me all day. As far as a secret, I love Chipotle's salad dressing, and they hoard that stuff like it's made of gold. They do not want to give you more of it than, absolutely necessary. So if you want to buy it and you don't want to like make it, because there are some recipes out there for you to make it at home. But if you want to buy like the closest to it that I found, Marzetti's honey chipotle dressing is like 95% of the way there. And it's one of those salad dressings you have to find in like the produce section. They don't put it with
Mm.
the salad dressing, it's got to be refrigerated or some nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like 95% of the way there. So, you know, if you don't want to have to get into fist fights at the Chipotle for the sauce. And I heard now they won't even give it to you if you order like a bowl instead of a salad, which to me is stupid because you have the same ingredients whether you ordered it as a bowl or a salad. They'll put lettuce on both of those. They'll put rice and beans on both of those. I don't get it's a distinction without a difference. Just give them the salad dressing and no one will get hurt.
Well, that's just baloney. Because yeah, and I'm with you there on a sort of like a condiment. I know here in Texas, there's a chain of restaurants called burger places called Whataburger, and as a kid, I loved their ketchup, but you had to like their ketchup had a nice like spicier taste to it, and you had to go. I would always want their ketchup, or hey, get a handful of them so we could have them at home. And finally, after years into me being an adult now, they actually bottled it and they're selling it in stores. And I'm like, thank the heavens or whatever you believe in, because yeah, some condiments are like, man, that's a really, like you just said, the salad dressing, like they should bottle that and sell it like it would make money.
They 100% could make money. Honestly, they could just pull what McDonald's did and charge you extra for some, right? And they would make money because they want to give you such a small amount, and you can add double meat to your salad, no problem. But you try and add double salad dressing, and it's like you want them to murder their firstborn child. Just give me the salad dressing.
And that's crazy that they're just not. I don't know. That sounds like a chain problem, or that specific restaurant problem rather than a chain, because you feel like, okay, just charge me whatever extra for it, and we'll make a deal.
But I think the problem is that they have to make it up like daily, and that the people working there are just like, this is how many we have, and we're not making any more. So when it runs out, nobody gets any salad dressing. And it's not like they're one of those, it's not like Subway where they've got 15 bottles of sauce. If they don't have one of them, you could switch to something else. It's literally the only salad dressing they have.
Oh, that. I don't know. That's baloney. I tell you. And last year on the topic, so and talk about the upcoming Minecraft movie, and maybe like speculate on your thoughts on it and see if it be a success, or I don't know, if a lot of people are saying that it looks like a dud from the trailer. Although you look at the video game movies like Super Mario that just came out and was a super success. But then you look at like the failure of like Borderlands, which, yeah, I've never seen or actually played either, but that one didn't do well at all. But now you have Minecraft, which is like, I guess, in between, where now everyone's like, I don't know if this is gonna succeed now. What are your thoughts on like the idea of Minecraft failing or succeeding? The movie.
Well, I think, and I think this is probably a problem with the people who make these movies. What they fail to realize is the reason something like Mario is going to succeed is because of nostalgia. Like the people who grew up playing Mario are adults now with movie theater ticket money, right?
Hmm.
Whether or not Minecraft succeeds is going to be different. Minecraft, the people who made Minecraft big, and I feel like I can say this because these are my people, right? Like I think Minecraft appeals to autistic people, and and while we're not like a huge percentage of the population, if we like a thing, we are the type of people to go see your movie 12 times, right? So it's gonna depend on whether or not it appeals to the same sort of thing that made the game appeal, right? I
Hmm.
think the I think the music is going to have to be right, right? The conditions in the theater are going to have to be right. It's like, have you ever heard of the show Firefly?
Yeah, I think it was only on for like one season, but it was
Well,
a big deal.
that's the thing. Firefly is like Community in that there's a very small but incredibly obsessive amount of people who've seen the show, right? And they just want nothing more than to talk about the show and see more of the show and obsess about the show, right? Which is it's a catch 22, right? Because it's a great fan base to have because they're really into your thing. But it's a hard fan base to manage because they are not legion, right?
Hmm.
It's a small group of really into it people, right? I as for what was the other one? Borderlands. I've never even heard of this video game. I'm assuming it's like Fallout or one of those dystopian future hellscape situations.
Hmm.
So I imagine in order to make that work, you'd have to like really focus on the plot, right? Like I know some of those first person shooters, some of the characters draw like a big fan base. And so, you'd have to hit that really right in order to make the people who are really into that, storyline show up. And there's going to be a certain percentage of those people who just aren't interested in going to a movie because the whole point of them playing the game is they want to shoot things up and there's nothing for them to do in a movie, right?
Yeah.
Movie is a passive action rather than an active action,
No,
you
yeah,
know.
I agree. And I think I might have tried Borderlands and got bored of it for a little bit. Uh, when they said they were making a movie, I was like, well, it looks pretty. It looks like the game. It has a lot of stars in it. Big budget, et cetera, but just fell flat on its face. And yeah, just wondering. Well, not that Mario wasn't a big budget. I'm sure it had a huge budget too. But of course you have Minecraft, and I'm sure that's a huge budget, and you just wonder, yeah, which way the pendulum will swing now that we've had both huge successes and huge failures that they're saying Borderland is.
Are you old enough to remember the Super Mario movie in 1993?
Yes, I do, and I mean, as a kid, you enjoy it, but as an adult, I could see why it might have failed. You know?
If you had asked me, I would not have said that that movie failed. But, that was back in the time when I did not have cable, right? I watched that movie on television, right? And I watched
Hmm.
that movie on television whenever it was on television because it was hysterical, right? I've seen the animated Mario, and I'm here for it because I grew up on Super Mario, right? I'm all about anything. See, I've played Mario Kart and Mario Party, but I am much more, you know, Mario for me will always be the original Mario, right?
Hmm.
Terrible graphics and all, right? Insidious music that you hear in your dreams, right? And honestly, I am super bad at anything that requires that kind of hand-eye coordination. I don't think I ever got past the first level of Mario, despite like losing probably years of my life to that game, right? But because it was such a huge part of so many of our childhoods in a way that I think few things could be, right? Like, I think Pokemon might be similar for certain people, but even then, right? Because Pokemon came out later, those kids had options that we didn't have when Mario was a thing, right?
Hmm.
There were only so many channels. There wasn't really the internet yet. And even the video games, there were only Duck Hunt was successful, right? Like as a game at that time, Duck Hunt was successful. And it was breakthrough because the screen was reacting to your gun, right? Something that should not have been able to happen at home, right? With our limited technology and our limited understanding of how all that shit worked, right?
Hmm.
So I'm just, like as our options expand every day, we're going to have like smaller and smaller universal experiences, right? There's just not going to be as many things that everybody remembers having happened. And so it's going to make it harder to make a movie based on a universal childhood experience because we're not going to have the same experiences.
No, absolutely. No, it makes that's a lot of logic. It makes a lot of sense now that there are so many options for these kids or these humans nowadays to choose from. Definitely. No, but yeah, no, I want to thank you for coming on. That's all I really had here. I don't know if you wanted to push or say where you're from as far as your shows or anything like that.
Oh, sure. That would be great. So, my podcast is Romance Read Along. We do analysis of romance novels. We're, we're currently, um, it's usually me and one other volunteer co host. So, anybody who wants to see their favorite book featured or wants to talk about their favorite book, please feel free to email me, romancereadalong@gmail.com. I'm always looking for somebody new to show up. And don't worry, I don't make you talk about the book the whole time. If there's something you want to, as much as I desperately want to have the podcast be nothing but a analysis of various and sundry romance novels, most of the time we start off there and wind up talking about comic books or children or dogs or something else because, you know, I'm obsessed, but most of my poor, unfortunate co hosts are less obsessed.
No, I get it. No, that sounds great. I'll have that in the descriptions, And yeah, and I want to thank you for coming on today and talking, topics with me. I really appreciate it.
Happy to do it.
Yeah, no, I
Thank
want
you
to
for
thank.
having me.
Yeah, no, thank you, and I want to thank everyone for listening. And we'll see you all next time. Everyone, take care. Bye.